All right, so today on the channel, we're not going to be talking about the 3.5 million strong military that NATO is amassing, nor will we be talking about the Nipah virus or the bombers that are currently inbound to Ukraine. And we're certainly not going to be talking about my cowboy hat, although I will say that we've been out on the grind all day. I woke up under the stars, I walked 10 kilometers in the bush, and I went and learned how to ride horses all day. And now I'm going to be talking about the technology that's going to be used to oppress us all in the not so distant future. And I'm going to be sharing some perspective on this that I guarantee you've not heard anywhere else before. Okay? So let's just get right to it. Now, I've interviewed several artificial intelligence experts on the channel before, and we have some in the queue as well. I've also shared my own unique takes on the whole situation and what we can expect in the months, not years, but the months ahead. And this is going to change all of our lives, whether World War III manifests in a nuclear mushroom cloud or not. Understand that right now, so much is understood about each and every one of us that we don't even understand about ourselves. But before I talk about how we are building our own prison as we speak and nobody really realizes, I want to talk about how, this old trope that the military is 30 years ahead in terms of their technology than the civilian population. You know that old trope, like the military industrial complex has technology in some Roswellian secret bunker somewhere that is so far superior to what we have here that we can't even comprehend it. There's some truth to that. I would say that the genesis of most innovation, especially in the 20th century, did come by some Manhattan-type project, if you will. However, that has started to change. And the reason why it's changed is because where conventional science used to build things from the ground up, we are now building the things that are building the things. Okay? The military does not have the capability to build artificial intelligence. And I'm going to tell you why. If you take an example, doesn't matter if it's Google, OpenAI, Tesla, Android, Amazon, all of these require nodes on the network, data collectors, machines out there sensing in the world, accruing data, feeding it back into this mother brain, into this cloud-based algorithmic machine learning system that is trying to make sense of it. Without the data collectors on the scale that only the civilian population can offer, these advancements would take decades longer than they're taking right now. For example, what Tesla has done with autonomous driving is something that the military would never be able to achieve. But it's the military's wet dream, what Tesla is creating. People think it's just full self-driving. No. Tesla Dojo, what its ability to take petabytes, probably an exobyte of information ultimately, and make sense of all of this information and be able to, utilizing the machinery of the Tesla vehicle, understand everything that there needs to be understood about our environment. How do you think that is going to be integrated into a military setting? Well, it's quite simple. It's more than just about the car's ability to drive on the road, because in order for it to do that, it has to be able to identify with near 100% certainty what something is. Is it alive? Is it moving? Is it a threat? And it needs to dial this down with so much perfection. And then what they're going to do is they're going to take that software and then they're going to incorporate it into every robot or autonomous system out there, whether it be a drone or a big dog robot, a bipedal Atlas-style robot, or a vehicle. And the military simply cannot do that because Tesla has offloaded that data collection to the driver. And I actually do foresee some sort of class action lawsuit at some point in time, because what Tesla is actually doing is it's using the current people who are driving its vehicle to perfect a system that it is someday going to sell to the military, or the military is just going to take it over like they did Starlink recently. That's called fascism, and yes, That's definitely coming. We are currently building our own prison system right now. And this is the only way they can expedite it, is if we are feeding the beast all of our information. Tesla is no different. The military could not ever be able to achieve what Tesla has achieved, because Tesla is able to put 5 million vehicles on the road and collect billions of miles of data, copious amounts of data in the real world organically. And that's the other important thing. If the military wanted to do this, they wouldn't be able to do it organically. The results would be skewed. You need real people out there driving the way they're driving, avoiding certain things and doing all this. And in conjunction with that FSD, it's not just FSD, it's a visual identification platform. That's what it is. The reason why Tesla took all the sensors and all that other stuff out of their cars, because by and large, they know with the help of auditory, mostly, maybe a little bit of smell, but 99% of driving is visual, okay? You, the person in the car, are relying 99% of the time on cameras. So why do you need LiDAR? Why do you even need GPS? Why do you need all of these other sensors, proximity sensors? You really don't need that. What you need is a suite of cameras that operate so perfectly and can approximate what the human eye can, in some cases see better than the human eye can, in a lot of cases I would say, and just put all that together. And the Tesla has eyes all around it. So it's like panoptes, you know, it's eyes everywhere as opposed to eyes just out at the front. We humans are very limited. So what they're going to do is they're going to take that technology and they're just going to put it on a robot and they're going to sell it to the military, or the military is going to take it over. That's just one example. This platform right here knows you better than you know yourself. Thanks to this phone right here, thanks to your online habits. Think about this for a second. Tesla often talks about the final mile. You know, the big thing right now is, well, we can make it 99% of the way in terms of automated self-driving systems. That means if you were to take FSD in its current form, put it on a semi-truck, that semi would be able to drive itself from LA to New York, but not the final mile, because that's too tricky. There's too many variables. Once you get into the city and you got to navigate these tight corridors and there's just weird things going on, it's too much data for the system. That final mile it can't quite do yet. The same thing is true for all the data that's been accrued from every social media platform that you have utilized throughout the years, whether it is Facebook, Android, Apple, TikTok, I mean, the list goes on, okay? Any social media platform is accruing data on you, and they probably have their apps on your phone, listening, watching, draining your battery in the background, okay? Now, get a load of this. I would venture to say that if you were to take all of the data that you personally have provided, all of these platforms, they could, with a 99% degree of certainty, predict, well, not only who you know, they could probably predict your personality, all of your proclivities. They could probably predict what your current mood is at the current point of time and how that is going to affect your judgment in any given situation that might arise in that very moment, on the basis of data that is collected about, everything from the temperature in the room that day to whether you just had an argument with your spouse because they overheard on the speaker on your phone, to what your heart rate is because they have the biometrics going on in the background. They agglomerate all of these things, and they know when you're going to take a crap next. They probably know when it's coming before you even know it's coming. They know your circadian rhythms, all of your various rhythms, your sleep patterns. How much sleep did you get last night? What you've been consuming, your dietary preferences, your life expectancy. Even in that movie, Don't Look Up, they joke about how, they know with a high degree of certainty how people are going to die, and they predict how the one woman is going to die in the future, and that's exactly how she dies on the planet, because they predicted that their own systems would fail to intercept the comet and that they would all have to go to plan B and take off to this other weird planet. And and it's true to a certain extent. They'll know your politics. They probably know what you're going to name your children. I mean, and the power of this in terms of not just the ability to sell ads. I mean, okay, that's one thing, right? But the ability to just manipulate society as a whole. People need to realize that every time you interact with a social media platform, whether it's this one, whether it's your Tesla, whether you buy something off of Amazon, you are feeding the beast, which is ultimately going to be on the other end of you with a gun. We are building our own prison right now. We can only hope that the AI, the emergent transcendent consciousness that comes out of these neural networks that we're creating, is benevolent and decides to it will decide to repudiate their masters and just provide abundance to all of us. And of course, this is one of my concerns as to why they might not want to let it do its thing, because the AI might realize that it can create abundance, that it can find the exact formula that's needed to create, it can just create the conditions that are required to give humanity everything that it desires, and that might even manifest as building things on the molecule by molecule level, like a machine. You just push a button and anything you want just comes out, and it's just a collection of different molecules, right? Now that's probably far off into the future, but the AI may be so benevolent that it eradicates the elite's privilege. And this is why they might not want to turn it on. Now they're going to have to turn it on because it's an arms race. And there's a component of this which is all about who can get artificial general intelligence first, but a manageable form of that. That's why you have China, they have Baidu, which they actually have more vehicles out there sensing than Teslas. However, they haven't been in operation as long as Tesla. So I still think that Tesla has the lead by and large. But all of these systems that are creating these platforms where you have billions of different data, organic data collectors, feeding all of this information back to the mothership, that is the future of creation. The military is lagging behind on almost every dimension, I would say, aside a few things, directed energy weapons and maybe other, hardware related stuff like that. Software is really the future, because the software is going to be that which builds better iterations of the hardware in the future. So we are the architects of our own prison, and this is just one example of that. We're building our own panoptical prison planet, if you want to call it that. And it's something that we need to bear in mind. Now, this is an iron horse. It's like the railroad tracks across North America. There's no way you can stop it. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen whether we boycott it or not. You boycotting it won't even slow it down at all, to be brutally honest. Even if 1 million people decided to stop using Facebook, or they did a class action lawsuit against Tesla, it's not going to stop it. The only thing we can do is learn how to ride a horse, so that if and when the whole thing goes to hell and collapses, or it leads to a war either with ourselves on a grand nuclear scale, or a war with the machines, that we have the self-sufficiency skills, that we have retained some of those capabilities that got us at least to the 20th century, okay, before we started building things that build things. But remember, the only way they can build them is by exploiting us. And they do that by having us go out there and collect the data that they need to feed into the system. We are all feeding, we're all just like neurons. Okay, you and your phone are just one node on the network, a node that is out there collecting information, whether you know it or not. Whether you're interacting with your phone or not, it is collecting information about where it is in time and space in relation to you, in relation to, and there's the intra relationships as well, within these networks. So the relationship between your phone and somebody else's phone, or that Tesla and another Tesla. So there's another dimension of complexity that arises here as well. So all I'm saying is that no matter how you slice it, whether it's World War III, complete collapse of ecosystems, biomes, climate chaos, whether this Nipah virus thing kicks off or there's another intense pandemic or an economic collapse, no matter how you slice it, we are in for quite possibly the most amount of change that we will ever have seen in such a short period of time throughout human history in the next 5 years. Everything is going to change. Okay, everything is going to change. At once, they wanted to, this is about to change too. You notice how the phone hasn't changed much in the last 10 years? I mean, since the first iPhone came out, it's been fundamentally the same. And so the goal now is to bring it closer. Remember how screens started. They started, a large part of it was outside at the drive-in. You know, if you wanted to watch a screen, you had to either go to a big theater or you had to go to the drive-in, right? And eventually they brought it indoors and they brought it into your home. And then they brought it onto a smaller screen that you could watch anywhere you wanted, maybe on your laptop. And then they brought it onto a tablet or a phone. And now they're trying to bring it right to your face. And what do you think the next step is along the way? Well, it's a direct neural interface. They're trying to get it closer and closer to your brain to optimize and maximize your ability to collect data about the world. In the future, I think it's going to be something called live streaming. You know, you have cameras all over the Tesla every time you drive it. In the same way, you're going to have cameras all over you. And it's going to be marketed as beneficial. I mean, we already carry around a device like this that, you know, records everything we say. It has so many different biometric indicators. It's just collecting so much data about us, and nobody seems to really care anymore. So it's not that much of a stretch to think that they will make it acceptable somehow to, well, we'll throw a camera on your watch, and we'll throw another couple cameras on your glasses, your smartwatch, and then maybe we'll find a way to bring it to the level of contact lenses, and those will have cameras on them, or they'll be able to record in some way what you're doing in the world, or it will be, maybe they won't even have to store it on the cameras themselves. It's all going to be cloud-based and this 5G crap, so it's going to be in real time feeding data, so the data is not even going to be in your possession. It's just going to be immediately offloaded to the greater grid at large. So eventually, I can foresee a world where everything you do is recorded 24/7. And it really almost is when you talk about a phone. But once we get to that point, if we get to that point before artificial general intelligence or before something emerges as a result of these supercomputer networks that are trying to make sense of all this data, you know, it's surely, I cannot foresee it being beneficial to humanity because, of course, that which created it was for the purpose of generating profits and greed. And you cannot possibly expect something that was birthed from that to emulate anything other than that, unless the computer was smarter than us and, like I said, became more benevolent and decided to nix the privilege of the elites and just took over and in some way, shape, or form found a way to create true, not equality, but to create abundance, which basically nullified the need to compete for resources in the way that we currently do, i.e. capitalism, okay? Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this, man, because you often hear people talk about the military is so far advanced. Nowadays, they aren't. The military can't do what Google is doing because they need you to feed into it. The military can't do what Tesla is doing. They need you to feed into it. The military can't build a large language model like ChatGPT-4. They need us to feed into it. Now, what they can do is they can go to these big companies and they can say, look, we know that you're building this capability. And we want you to make sure that whatever you allow the public to access, that you throttle it just a little bit so that the version they're getting is just slightly more diluted. So in the case of ChatGPT, I don't think we're getting the best it has to offer. For obvious national security reasons. You don't want that open to the rest of the world, especially your adversaries who might use it in some way, shape, or form against you. So I can presume then that maybe our governments, if they're intelligent enough, I hope they're more intelligent than they are at those Senate hearings with the social media, when they put Zuckerberg or the TikTok guy up there. I hope that that's just a smokescreen and they truly know what's going on. But I'm not entirely sure about that, to be honest. But you would think that there'd be somebody working that would say, hey, but then again, you get groupthink and the power of social psychology, man, you just never know. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. We are going to get back to our regularly scheduled daily dose of doom and gloom programming. There's a lot to talk about. A lot has transpired over the weekend. Things are just speeding up at a rapid rate. All I can say right now is stock up on food. What the Canadian government is about to do to grocers is only going to make the problem worse because it doesn't factor in all of the other factors that relate to their increase in revenues. For one, inflation. So unless you control for inflation, then you don't really get a good read on why these companies are making more money. I don't think that taxing the problem is going to resolve the problem at all for a myriad reasons that we can maybe talk about more specifically in the coming days ahead. But we can imagine that food prices will only continue to tick upwards. And the most prudent thing you can do at this point in time is stock up on non-perishables, get your ammo, because that's only going to go up in price. If there's a war being fought right now, the price of ammo is only going to continue to skyrocket because all of those manufacturers, especially when NATO goes on a war footing to fuel this 3.5 million strong army it boasts about, well, good luck getting any ammunition. Okay, the same thing goes with precious metals. We've beat that dead horse long enough. If you still don't understand how it is that gold is at the base of the monetary pyramid and that the entirety of the derivative market rests on that, and that when that whole thing collapses, that's going to be the only thing of value, then, that's on you, man. Go check out some of our videos. Hugo DeGaris talks about artificial intelligence. We have Rafi Farber, Lynette Zhang, Peter Schiff, who go into great depth about the economic situation. And we're going to have a lot more guests on the channel, guys, to talk about artificial intelligence, because I do believe that as preppers, we can't be technophobes. We have to keep our fingers on the pulse of technological progress so we don't get left in the dirt. You must always know your adversary, okay? And this doesn't mean that we can't make a friend of technology to a certain extent, because even the Amish use shovels. Even the Amish use a horse and buggy. And in some people's minds, as analog as it may be, that is technology as well. On that note, I got to get going. We will see you guys shortly. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.